Okay, shall I start? Dictation given an explanation for evil spirits. This was also given probably in the 70s. What we think we understand about such things is very much a confusion of our own imagination, superstition, and the strange ideas handed down from medieval times. There are, of course, in this physical world, spiritual entities all around us, continually, as if we are only dimly aware. Some work for good, some to try to bring about the destruction of all things good that the Creator Lords continually plan for the benefit of mankind. The closest understanding that can be given to mankind must be in a more complete knowledge of what humanity really is, and how the powers for good must work in order to remain more powerful than their adversaries, who are always alert to seize any advantage, however small it might be. They must be ruthless and ever diligent, and work goes on without cessation. All those who look for understanding and a deeper knowledge must first look around them at any commercial organization which becomes ever more successful than its competitors. It will be quickly observed that they never remain static, but enlarge their territory all the time, knowing full well that by complacency and a program of narrow inward-looking trade, that their many adversaries and competitors would quickly overtake them and put them out of business. Consequently, they must always be on the lookout for new merchandise and new territories to conquer, and must be ever alert if they wish to continue to prosper. It must be further appreciated, whilst thinking on these lines, that all things, be they physical or spiritual, operate on much the same principles. The greatest hindrance to understanding is the old idea handed down by ancient man that this physical world belongs to the devil, and that after one life spent in it, the departed spirit, by the very transition from physical to spiritual, becomes divine, and after that their lives, to all intents and purposes, are lived in a kind of fairyland, devoid of occupation or purpose, there to remain forever. If this were really to be the case, the average busy, intelligent, alert being could not be blamed if he looked upon the prospect of his physical death with dismay. If such were the case, the nearest similarity between such ideas and the real facts must be the spiritual rest plains, where we go between our different physical lives, and even there are to be found places of instruction, penitence, retribution, and in some dire cases, exactly as here in the physical world, imprisonment for the sake of others. Also for some whose physical lives have impaired their spirit, there are spiritual hospitals, which are places of spiritual restoration. The Creator Lords who rule our universe are supreme beings, far in advance of our ordinary humanity, and who, given in splendour and might the many and various physical planes, the planets, many of which are similar to our own, and the multitudinous spiritual planes, some lower, some higher than others. The only part of this physical world that belongs to the dark forces are the spiritual entities that are sent to destroy all that creation has provided for the benefit of mankind, and the realms within ourselves which make up our failings and faults. In every way, the forces for good try to take over new territory in this world, and appeal constantly to the inherent goodness within mankind to treat his planet and his fellow man with compassion and fairness, and the struggle between good and evil and mankind's casual destruction of his planet and the constant wars in this world continue without cessation. Only the Creator Lords can create humanity and endow it with the life force, and the soul which is everlasting and almost never destroyed. However, by the very nature of the way that creation, to an extent, is automatic, all entities must start at the lowest level. Some are good and others are not, and it is these lowly destructive spirits that constantly work against our better nature. In this struggle for strength and supremacy, the higher forces will capture, for want of a better word, whole new territories, and the dark spirits within them. These lowly beings thereafter are in their care. They are set on a path to move forward and are given suitable life force and a soul of kinds, and are created physically to become animals, fish or birds. They then begin the complicated struggle through physical and spiritual progression onwards and upwards towards some lowly form of humanity. Some never progress very far, having neither the wish nor the capability to do so. This applies to animals and to humanity. Many of those whose lives to us seem pointless and without purpose have been rescued from other dimensions in which they would have been doomed to a life of the most degrading and desperate servitude. These are spiritual planes or dimensions of unimaginable horror which we cannot possibly even conceive of. The captured beings that become human mostly become men, and although the creators can equip them with a soul or life force, the basic character weaknesses and fundamental wickedness within that soul cannot be eradicated. Only through the course of many physical lives and the spiritual ones that followed, times of instruction, times of stress, and the love of women given in their different physical lives, can these lowly souls progress and improve. Women rarely come from these planes, as their role is quite a different one from that of man, and it is not only physically that they are quite differently equipped, but spiritually also. What we can understand of this extremely complicated structure must be greatly simplified for our minds to grasp. If we were to understand all, we would see that the way in which things are organized is perfectly fair. We are all different, all living different lives that are closely connected with our previous lives. Some have debts of retribution to pay, others have not. Some are owed debts of retribution. Some come from high planes and are spiritually and physically greater and superior to others, and they are tasked to bring knowledge, comfort, and all manner of benefit in many different ways to mankind. For those from low planes, progression to higher planes, understanding, wisdom and strength can only be achieved through the help of others, all around this complicated realm of humanity living in the physical world. Exist spiritual entities, some for good and some intensely evil. They know that the only way they can work in this world is through the human spirit and the mind of each of us. They know how to attack the weak and use them in ways of guile and cunning, and many good and unwary members of society would be amazed if they were to become aware of exactly how this is often done, sometimes even through good and apparently pious people acting as they believe in goodness and uprightness. Even the best of humanity is not very often without pride, envy, vanity, and malice of one kind or another, and many other variations of lesser weakness of spirit, which is not always easy to recognize, even with thorough self-searching. The attacks made upon us are continual and relentless, and to combat them we need not only spiritual health but also physical health, so that mankind can go forward with renewed vigour to try to make this planet, which is our home, a better and more worthwhile place to live in, not only in the immediate future but in the distant future, when those foolish and ignorant of the real truth shrug their shoulders and exclaim that once they have left this life they are never likely to be concerned with it again. No matter who they are, they may be required to return, and if nothing is done, as we here hope that it will be, this potentially beautiful little planet, in which evil and corruption is now gaining total control through the ignorance and stupidity of mankind, will become a veritable hell on earth, where maybe 1,000 physical years must elapse before the forces for good can regain control once more. Possession by evil entities does sometimes happen, but it is rare in this modern world. Much of what passes for possession is nothing more than a combination of depression, boredom, hysteria, and other allied imagined ills. Anyone of strong character and physical health with a determination to overcome depression and despair will easily repulse such attacks made on his or her spirit by the evil entities around them. The weaker the person, both spiritually and physically, the more easily they are attacked. The only answer is resolution and strength, and the personal determination to overcome and succeed in the battle of this life, and consequently to become stronger for having won through in the end. After all, you cannot make a tapestry of great beauty without using some dark colours to give it depth. The different Christian churches today can be likened to a commercial organisation, well thought of by many, but not supported by them, as it no longer has anything of commercial value for sale, in that it has lost its relevance to the modern population. The many intelligent people in the modern civilized world have carefully examined many of the messages brought into the world by the various prophets, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, and any others they can find literature about. Those intelligent, deep-thinking people are by no means contemned, as many devout Christians would wish to believe, because they never enter a church. Far from it. Their intelligence and wisdom is admired, for most have taken the time to investigate and will have found that all the messages brought to man are much the same. The principles for intelligent living and understanding, be it in the East or the West, are the same. But should those who find the illogicalities in the faiths into which they were born to be unacceptable, then should they become a member of some other religion? This is not really the answer, as the different prophets have been sent to the different peoples of the world, all of whom have their own uniqueness of character and race, and their particular place in the world, both spiritually and physically. All of humanity is different. Some are ready for a fuller and more complete understanding of life and death and the laws of creation, while for others there can be little understanding, and simple myths of the past, the legends of ancient men, though perhaps illogical, are sufficient. But now in the world there are many who are ready for a new understanding, both young and old, but especially those who are young. So it is that this book must be understandable, most especially to the young, for the immediate reshaping of the future is theirs. And that's the end of the dictation. But I would say, people will have noticed that they're saying that sort of lowly creatures recaptured from the depths usually become men. But also those that are sent from higher planes to give special messages and to do marvellous work are also men. So don't imagine that this is being very rude to the male sex. Women tend to be more in the caring and nurturing side of things, or should be. And that's how we work together. We have different... Men have... They've somewhere in one of the other dictations it says, men have a calculating mind. So even a man who these days is dressing himself up in dresses and makeup and calling himself Doris, he probably will be the first one under your bonnet looking to find out what's happened to your car, whereas you have no idea whatsoever as a woman. Although there are some women who are very good at mechanics. So women tend to be more in the caring and nurturing side of things. And we need that. We need, you look at all the inventions in this planet. They've all been done mostly by men. And if we don't have the children and look after them properly, then there's no love and care in the world. Anyway, so that's the end of that. Miles?